All right, welcome. I hope this goes well. Give this a whirl from home. We are starting chapter 10, which is the conics section. Basically, a conic, you can see there are two cones that compose each of these figures. Depending on which way you slice the cone, you will get two-dimensional figures from these three-dimensional cones. The first one, the parabola, you can see they slice through it at a direction parallel to this axis right here. I get a circle if I cut straight across horizontally perpendicular to this center axis. And if I put some sort of slope to my cut, I will get an ellipse, as you can see. And then if I cut this direction, or straight up and down, see this passes through both, which is a little different than the parabola. That's a hyperbola, and there's two of them. There'll always be two. The parabola will be one. You are familiar with the parabola. You have studied that before. The circle, we will begin with that. That's probably the easiest. And then the ellipse, the hyperbola, is the most complicated. Don't worry about that. For now. This is just some refresher stuff to help you out. You will need and use the distance formula and the midpoint. So I have 2 points. You are familiar with this. This is the distance formula. And I didn't do an example there. I'm going to go a little bit rapidly because I know you can pause and I don't want to bore you. There's your midpoint formula. Basically, add them together, divide by 2. Here's how you find the midpoint. Add them together, divide by 2. Add the x's, divide by 2. Add the y's, divide by 2. Boom. There's your midpoint. Right there. Again, that's review. Now, this is more like what you're going to see when you need to start writing equations and they give you some word problems. So remember, the diameter is going all the way across the circle through the center. They're asking you to find the coordinates of the center. Now, I actually found the distance all the way across, which, as I look back, this was unnecessary to do. But this is an example of how to use the distance formula. And now, I didn't use that to find the center. To find the center, I just use the midpoint between the two endpoints, and that gives me my center. So I didn't work out the midpoint formula, but that's what it turns out to be. I did do the distance formula here, which they didn't ask, but there's an example of how to do it to find out how much the diameter is. Okay, you may need that in the not so distant future. Now, I am jumping to another prerequisite here. These notes are in on Schoology, and they are filled out. There is no narration to them, so you have access to them. This is going to be part of day 1. By the way, I do not have an assignment on distance and midpoint formula. So I'm just expecting that you know those and can use those. Completing the square. You have had this before, but this is going to be very important as we move on. A couple things to recognize. Standard form always goes from x squared down to x to the nothing, and typically we set them equal to 0. Vertex form. This is vertex form. You have more groupings here. I could figure out what the vertex is, and I could graph that. Actually, I can graph either one of those, but we're not worried about that. I want you to recognize the different forms. Now, these steps, keep these for reference. I will be guiding you through these. This is simply for those who are maybe more visual and like steps. There they are. Know where they are. You will not need this after a while. Notice a little star there. We'll talk about that, about making a equal to 1. When it is 1, things are much more simple for us. Sorry, I'm going a little fast. You can pause at any time. These are perfect squares, okay? They are perfect squares because when I factor this, I get the same factor in each, which means I can write this as x plus 3 squared. Okay? Here's another perfect square. I don't know why I get all this junk jumping on my screen. And notice, and this is in one of your steps up there, right here, take half the middle number, then square it. Whatever you add to one side, add to the other. Factor the new perfect square trinomial. All right, so check this out. If I take half of this, which is 4, and square it, I get 16. This is a perfect square trinomial, 1, 2, 3 terms. I can write it as a perfect square binomial, 1, 2 terms. Same as up here. Half of this term, 3, square it, 9, boom. Half of negative 12, which is negative 6. Square it. I get 36. Perfect square trinomial. Notice also, muy importante, I knew you'd love I'd throw that in there. This number, half a b every single time. Know that. Remember that. Half a b, boom. Half a b, boom. Beautiful. Love it. This is what your problems are going to look like right here. Okay, notice this. Half a b, negative 6. Square it. Oops, not that number, is it? Okay, so this is where you go up to your steps. I'm doing my homework. How do I start? How about number 1? Move the constant to the other side. There's my constant. How do I move it to the other side? Minus 4, minus 4. I hope I've been presenting this whole time, or have I just been talking? I guess I'll find out. Sorry for the screen jumping around. Not sure how this is going to work. Okay, so I moved the negative 4 over. I need a new number in here. See, put a line there, and then we're going to fill it in. Half of this, half of negative 12, negative 6. Square it. But I added it to this side, so I have to add it over here, right? The whole equation thing. And this now is a perfect square trinomial. What number goes here? Half of b. Bingo. How'd they get the 32? Negative 4 plus negative 6 squared. Now, negative 6 squared is a positive number, right? So 36 minus 4 is 32. They are taking the square root. They're solving this now, right? They completed the square. That's what it looks like right there, that line. Solve it. Okay? Well, I have to get rid of the square root, or the square. So I take the square root. Square root leaves me with x minus 6. Whenever you take the square root, it's always plus and minus. Don't forget that part. And that's going to be an irrational number. So they just left it as a square root of 32, added 6 to both sides. Voila. How many solutions? Dos, because of the plus and minus. You can leave your answer just like that. Okay. For equation writing, as you'll see, we're just going to use this. You'll see that later. Another example. Here we roll. Move the constant to the other side. Okay. Done. I have a blank right here. That's not in there yet. How did that number get there? Half of this, 1 1/2, square it. I added that number to this side. I have to add it to this side. Please do not forget that step. Okay, how do I get to the next step? Where does this number come from? Half of b. Half of b. Oh, a, b, c. ax squared bx plus c. Standard form. Okay, half of b here. Added those together. We're solving. Have to get rid of the squared. Square root both sides. Plus and minus on the square root. Have to subtract that to get it over. There's my solution. By the way, you're not going to be solving. What we're going to want is this. That beauty right there. But for now, let's practice that. Problem. Remember that little asterisk up there? This bad boy, right there? If it's not equal to 1, you will need to factor out the coefficients in front of x squared. All right, let's see here. What's going on? What is going on? There it is. Okay, there it is. Uh-oh. A is not equal to 1. Okay, notice, first step. Oh, they still moved that. They moved it. Went over. Bye-bye. I want this to be 1. And divide everything by 3. Boom, boom. Oops, nothing there. Nothing to divide by 3. Divide by 3. Okay. Here's my new line. This isn't here yet. Green's not there yet. Okay. How do I get the green? Half of b. Negative 4 divided by 2. Negative 2. Square it. That's 4. Added to the other side. Plus 4. Okay. How do we get this number? Half of b. Beautiful. They're solving. They have to get rid of the squared. Take the square root. Take the square root. Goofy number. No big deal. There's what x is equal to. Here we go again. Move it over. Bam. I need this to be 1. Divide everything by 4. Need a number in here. How do I get it? Half of b. Square it. Oh, I added that. Better add that. Be fair. Be just. Be right. Be true. All right. X plus half of b. That's my result here. Got to get rid of the squared. Take the square root, and start simplifying. Negative. Can't take the square root of negative. Use that I thing. Plus or minus because I'm using square root. Subtract 1. All they did was 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. You can factor a full 2 out of there. That's not really the point of this whole thing, but you should know how to do that. So, voila. Good luck. Adios. Au revoir.